The warehouse stretched endlessly under the dim glow of flickering overhead lamps, a silent, cold giant. The air was heavy with the smell of dust, old paper, and machine oil. Every sound echoed unnaturally, the faint drip of a leaky pipe, the distant hum of old motors, and the occasional metallic squeak from the steel beams. Ali, the night shift guard, adjusted his jacket and pushed open the massive front door, stepping into the cavernous darkness. His watch read 11:03 p.m., but time already felt distorted. Every instinct screamed that this night would not be normal. At first, everything seemed routine. The flashlight beam cut through the darkness, illuminating rows of stacked boxes and empty carts. Shadows clung to the corners of the warehouse, stretching unnaturally along the walls. Ali muttered to himself, "It's just a warehouse, nothing to worry about." But the oppressive silence gnawed at him. Each step he took echoed like a drumbeat in the vast emptiness. Then came the sound, a soft metallic creak from the far end of the warehouse. His heart jumped. The old sliding maintenance door, marked "Authorized Personnel Only," had shifted slightly. Ali froze, staring. The sway was subtle, almost imperceptible, but undeniable. He lifted his flashlight toward the door. Nothing. The still air offered no explanation. He checked the handheld monitor. The cameras showed empty aisles, empty shelves, and yet the door had moved. Something unseen, yet undeniably present, lingered. Ali's pulse raced. Curiosity and fear warred inside him. Step by cautious step, he approached the door. His flashlight trembled in his hand. With each movement, the warehouse seemed to respond, the shadows stretching, the silence deepening, as if aware of his presence. The door creaked again, inching open slowly, deliberately. He scanned the area with the flashlight. Dust motes danced in the beam. Shadows warped along the walls, bending unnaturally. Then, for a brief second, a reflection caught his eye, a tall, thin figure standing behind him, disappearing the instant he turned around. Minutes dragged on. The warehouse seemed alive, the silence pressing in on him from all sides. Another creak. The door shifted further, almost as if inviting him closer. Ali's breathing became shallow, his palms sweaty. Goosebumps prickled his arms. He could feel the presence of something unseen, a cold awareness tracking every move. A faint whisper brushed his ear. "Leave. Now." His spine froze. He spun around, sweeping the flashlight beam across the aisles. Empty. Nothing. The voice had been near, intimate, yet no one was there. Heart-pounding, Ali forced himself forward, scanning every corner. Shadows stretched like living things. Dust shifted slightly, hinting at movement. Then a flicker of light revealed it again, a pale, distorted figure. The warehouse was darker now, the flickering overhead lamps struggling to cast their dim glow across the endless aisles. Ali's heart thumped in his chest as he cautiously stepped further inside, flashlight in hand. Every sound, the hum of distant machinery, the drip of water, even the faint rustle of a plastic cover, seemed amplified, echoing like whispers from some unseen observer. The sliding maintenance door from last night swayed slightly again, a slow, deliberate motion that sent a chill down Ali's spine. He froze, holding his breath, listening. The warehouse was silent otherwise, yet it felt as though every shadow, every dark corner was watching him. Ali took a tentative step forward. The beam of his flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing stacks of boxes, abandoned carts, and the skeletal outlines of long, unused machinery. But in the corner of his eye, something moved, a shadow curling along the floor, stretching unnaturally. He spun his flashlight toward it, but nothing was there, just the empty aisle. His pulse quickened. Then came the whispers, faint and distant at first. "Leave. Now."
Ollie strained to listen, but they faded before he could make sense of them. He shook his head. Fatigue? Imagination? It had to be something rational, yet the hair on the back of his neck stood on end. As he proceeded down the aisle, the shadows seemed to grow longer, stretching toward him like dark tendrils. Dust motes drifted in the flashlight beam, but some seemed to move against the airflow, drifting as though guided by unseen hands. Ollie's grip on the flashlight tightened, knuckles white. He approached a stack of metal shelves. The air around them felt heavier, colder, and the sound of soft, metallic creaking echoed faintly. Ollie leaned closer, shining his light between the shelves. There, for just a second, he saw it, a thin, pale silhouette, bending unnaturally, crawling on the floor toward him. He stumbled back, heart hammering. The figure vanished instantly, leaving only silence and the faint metallic scent of the warehouse. Ollie forced himself to move forward again. Every instinct screamed to leave, yet curiosity and duty anchored him. His flashlight flickered once, twice, then stabilized. Shadows leapt and twisted in ways no natural light should allow. Another whisper brushed past his ear, "You shouldn't be here." He spun, scanning the aisles. Empty. No one. A sudden movement near a stack of crates caught his eye. Boxes shifted slightly, then stopped. The faint outline of a long shadow stretched along the floor, curling upward against the shelves. Ollie's flashlight quivered in his hands. He dared not step closer. The warehouse seemed alive now, responding to his presence. Every small creak, every shifting shadow felt deliberate. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, and almost rhythmic, echoed faintly from somewhere behind him. Ollie spun around. Nothing. The footsteps continued, moving parallel to him, matching his pace. He moved faster. They moved faster. Faster still. Panic began to rise. His flashlight beam wobbled, illuminating shelves, crates, and corners, all empty. Yet he felt eyes on him, unseen, but close. Then came the reflection. A glimmer on the polished concrete floor caught his eye. He froze. There, a distorted figure, tall, thin, bending in impossible angles.
The warehouse had shifted. Allie knew it. Every sound, every shadow, every draft of cold air seemed deliberate, as if the building itself were alive and breathing around him. The last incident with the maintenance door and the crawling shadow replayed in his mind with every step he took. Sweat clung to his temples, and his flashlight trembled in his hand. He moved deeper into the warehouse, where aisles narrowed and boxes towered high above. Dust swirled in the flashlight beam, dancing eerily. He tried to convince himself, old building, draft, stress, but nothing rational explained the movement of shadows or the whispers he had heard. Then he saw it, a door tucked behind stacks of crates he had never noticed before. Faded, unmarked, with rust crawling along the hinges. It was ajar, just slightly, as if inviting him in. A cold shiver ran down Allie's spine. The forgotten room, he whispered to himself. He hadn't heard of this door before. It didn't appear on any warehouse map. Allie approached slowly. Each step echoed against the concrete floor. The air grew colder, heavier, almost viscous. His flashlight flickered as if protesting his intrusion. He reached the door and pushed it open, revealing a small room lined with dusty shelves and forgotten machinery. The faint scent of mold and rust hit his nose. The beam of his flashlight scanned the room. Nothing seemed moved. Boxes stacked neatly, tools lined carefully, yet the temperature seemed to drop the closer he stepped inside. The whispers returned, faint at first, unintelligible, then gradually clearer. Go back. Leave now. Allie's pulse raced. He swallowed hard and whispered, I'm just checking. but the words felt hollow even to himself. He stepped further in, flashlight cutting through the darkness. Then he saw it. Scratches along the walls, deep and jagged, as if something had clawed its way through. Fresh dust covered older scratches. A faint metallic clatter echoed behind him. Ali spun. Nothing. Just the empty warehouse beyond the door. He tried to steady his breathing. It's just the building settling, old metal. Yet the sense of being watched grew unbearable. He shone the flashlight onto a stack of old crates in the corner. One crate had shifted slightly, as if moved by invisible fingers. Ali froze. Then, in the reflection of a metal surface, he saw it, the tall, thin figure again, crawling across the floor, bending in impossible angles, moving without legs. He blinked. It vanished. Ali's heart thundered. He backed toward the door, flashlight shaking violently. Every instinct screamed for him to leave, yet he was drawn deeper into the room by a mix of curiosity and terror. He noticed old photographs scattered across a dusty shelf. Faces of warehouse workers, guards long gone, stared up at him. Some were scratched out. Some had eyes blacked with ink. A chill ran down Ali's spine. The whispers grew louder, overlapping, almost chanting, "Leave, leave, leave." Ali stumbled back, knocking over a crate. The sound echoed violently through the room, bouncing off the walls. The figure reappeared, closer this time. A pale, distorted shadow, stretching and contorting, its movement unnatural. Ali's breath caught. He tried to focus on the flashlight beam, but it flickered again, dimming as if the darkness itself was consuming it. Then suddenly, a box toppled on its own, narrowly missing his feet. He jumped back, tripping over a cable. His flashlight rolled across the floor, illuminating the corner. The shadow moved with him, crawling, closer, faster now. Ali scrambled to pick it up, pointing it at the figure, but it seemed to fade, slipping between the beams of light, unseen, yet unmistakably present. He felt a cold hand brush the back of his neck. Not real, he tried to reason, but the icy sensation burned with the clarity of reality. Panic surged. He ran toward the door, yanking it open, and stumbled back into the main warehouse. The forgotten room seemed to exhale behind him, dust curling like a living thing around the doorway. Ali's flashlight stabilized, illuminating the vast emptiness. The warehouse felt different now. Ali could sense it. Shadows stretched longer, darker, crawling along the walls like living things. His flashlight flickered, and the overhead lamps buzzed with static, casting trembling light across the aisles. He gripped his handheld monitor tighter, knowing the cameras might lie, might hide what lurked in the darkness. He moved toward the security office, heart thundering. The images on the screens all appeared normal. Empty aisles, stacks of crates, silent machines. Nothing stirred. And yet Ali knew better. The warehouse had awakened. It had eyes, and they were on him. A faint whisper echoed. "They're watching. Always watching." The words were soft, almost intimate, brushing against his eardrum. Ali froze. The warehouse seemed to pulse around him, alive and aware. He glanced back down a long aisle. Shadows pooled and twisted unnaturally. For a split second he saw it, the tall, thin figure bending at impossible angles, crawling across the floor. He raised the flashlight, but when the beam hit the spot, nothing remained. Only the ordinary warehouse, silent and still. Ali shook his head. Fatigue. My mind. Just stress. He forced himself forward, toward the office. Each step echoed like a drumbeat. Dust motes floated in the beam, some moving as if against the airflow, dancing unnaturally. Reaching the office, he scanned the monitors again. Every camera showed empty aisles. Nothing moved. Nothing changed. The monitors were lying or hiding something. Ali leaned closer, heart racing. He knew the cameras couldn't see everything. The darkness had its secrets. Then he heard it. The metallic creak of a sliding door. His pulse spiked.
The maintenance door from the previous nights moved slightly again. He swiveled the camera view toward it. Nothing. The door, the aisle, the shelves, all appeared undisturbed. Yet Ali felt the presence, cold and malevolent, just beyond his vision. A shadow flickered across the floor behind him. He spun, flashlight cutting a path through the dark. Nothing, but the sense of being watched intensified. He could feel it, the warehouse observing him, testing him, toying with him. Ali's thoughts raced. If the cameras lie, then what can I trust? He scanned every monitor, every aisle, every reflection in the polished concrete floor. The shadows moved in ways no camera could capture, twisting and crawling, stretching along walls and racks. The warehouse had become a predator, and he was its prey. Another whisper, louder this time. "You can't escape. We see you." It was close, intimate, brushing the back of his neck. Ali spun violently. Empty aisles, empty shelves. Only the oppressive darkness remained. He moved deeper into the control room, trying to make sense of it all. Every monitor still displayed nothing unusual, but Ali could feel it in every shadow, every sound, every breath of cold air. The warehouse was alive. The figures, the shadows, the crawling shapes, they existed beyond the camera's gaze, and they were moving toward him. Suddenly, the main monitor flickered. Then a single frame appeared, a distorted image of Ali himself standing alone in the aisle. But the figure behind him in the frame was impossible. Thin, bent, crawling along the floor, eyes black as void, moving unnaturally. Ali gasped. The shadow in the monitor mimicked his every move, yet the aisle on the screen remained empty. The room grew colder. His flashlight beam wavered. A metallic crash sounded somewhere in the distance. A falling box? Or something more sinister? The shadow moved, faster now, just beyond the corners of his vision. Ali's pulse raced uncontrollably. He stumbled back, tripping over a cable. The monitors flickered again, returning to normal. Empty aisles, empty racks, silence. But Ali could still feel the presence pressing from all directions. The warehouse was alive. A faint whisper echoed from the monitor itself. "You can't hide." Ali froze.
The warehouse had grown colder, darker, almost alive. Ali's heartbeat thundered in his chest as he moved cautiously down the endless aisles. Every shadow seemed to stretch, curl, and shift, as if it had a will of its own. The whispers had returned, closer now, overlapping, almost chanting, "Leave, leave, leave." Ali's flashlight trembled in his hand. He forced himself forward, toward the maintenance door, but every step felt heavier. The air grew thicker, colder, pressing against him like invisible hands. Dust floated in strange currents, drifting against the airflow, as if something unseen guided it. Then he saw it, a shadow slithering along the floor, long, thin, crawling unnaturally, bending impossibly. Ali froze, shining his flashlight directly at it. The shadow paused, mimicking his movements. When the light hit the spot, nothing was there. But he could feel it, coiling around his mind, watching, waiting. He forced himself to keep moving. Every aisle seemed unfamiliar, twisted. Boxes shifted slightly when he passed, metal scraping metal, though no one else was in sight. Ali tried to convince himself it was imagination, fatigue, stress. Yet the cold, the whispers, and the unnatural shadows told a different story. The warehouse was alive, and it had him in its grip. A metallic clatter echoed behind him. Ali spun, flashlight cutting a beam across the aisles. A crate had toppled, but no one had touched it. From the corner of his eye, he saw the figure again, tall, thin, crawling along the floor, its limbs bending impossibly. He blinked. Gone. The warehouse was playing with him.
Ali ran, stumbling over cables and crates, flashlight beam bouncing wildly. The whispers grew louder, more urgent. "You can't escape. We see you." His pulse raced. The shadows stretched along the walls, twisting toward him like living fingers. He reached a narrow aisle, trapped between towering shelves. The shadows closed in. The crawling figure appeared at the far end, moving closer, faster now. Its movements were impossible, jerking and stretching with unnatural speed. Ali's heart pounded as he tried to retreat. The flashlight flickered, then stabilized, revealing nothing, yet he felt the presence move nearer. Suddenly, a crate fell beside him with a deafening crash. Ali jumped, turning toward the sound. The shadow was closer, crawling with impossible agility. He could feel it almost touch him, the cold radiating from its unseen form. Panic surged. Ali ducked behind a stack of boxes, gasping for breath. The warehouse seemed to pulse around him, alive and aware. Every creak, every whisper, every subtle movement was deliberate, a predator toying with its prey. He held his flashlight high, scanning desperately. Then a voice, unmistakably human, distorted, echoing from all directions. "It's coming. It's crawling. It's hungry." Ali's blood ran cold. The shadows writhed around the edges of his vision, stretching and coiling toward him. He could sense it, a presence that moved beyond sight, beyond light, beyond reason. He scrambled to the maintenance door, yanking it open and rushed through, heart pounding, every nerve screaming. The warehouse behind him seemed to exhale, the shadows curling like smoke, reaching for him, yet restrained by invisible boundaries. Ali collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. The warehouse was silent again, almost normal, but he knew better. The shadows, the whispers, the crawling figure, they were out there, waiting, watching, hungry. Ali swallowed hard. The night had only just begun, and the crawl would come closer, always closer, until the darkness had him completely.
The warehouse felt suffocating. Ali's breath came in short, ragged gasps. Every aisle, every shadow, every creak seemed amplified in the oppressive darkness. His flashlight cut weak beams through the fog of dust and cold air. The crawling figure from before was gone, or at least hidden. But Ali knew better. It was still here, waiting, patient. He moved cautiously toward the maintenance door, every nerve alert. A chill brushed the back of his neck, icy and sudden, sending shivers down his spine. Cold, it's just cold, he tried to rationalize. But the temperature dropped further, and he could see his breath hanging in the flashlight beam. This was no ordinary cold. Something alive was moving through the warehouse, unseen yet undeniably real. A faint whisper curled around him. "Breathe, feel, fear." The words were close, almost on his skin. Ali froze. Every instinct screamed to run, but he couldn't. Something deeper rooted him in place. Curiosity, terror, and an undeniable sense that the darkness itself was aware of him. The flashlight flickered. A shadow moved along the floor, long, thin, and crawling unnaturally. Ali pointed the light at it. Nothing. Yet he could feel the presence drawing nearer, pressing against him like invisible hands. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. Ali stepped cautiously toward the maintenance door. Boxes shifted slightly as he passed, metal scraping metal. The air thickened, carrying whispers in languages he didn't understand. The warehouse seemed to breathe around him. Each step felt heavier than the last. Suddenly, a metallic clang echoed behind him. He spun. A crate had fallen, or been pushed. From the corner of his eye, he glimpsed the tall, thin figure crawling across the floor, its limbs bent impossibly, moving without legs. Ali stumbled backward, tripping over a cable. The flashlight rolled, illuminating the far wall for a fleeting second. The shadow vanished. The whispers intensified, overlapping. "Leave. It's too late. Feel the cold." Ali felt a chill crawl up his spine. The shadows along the walls stretched, twisting into fingers that seemed to reach for him. He realized the crawling figure was not alone. Something larger, more menacing moved in the darkness, unseen, yet undeniably real. He scrambled to pick up the flashlight, shining it across the aisles. Dust floated in unnatural currents, drifting as if alive. Then he noticed it, a subtle reflection in a metal shelf. The distorted shape of the figure, bending, crawling, impossibly long. It was closer now. His heart hammered. Ali ran toward the security office. The warehouse seemed to shift around him. Shadows twisted, lengthened, curling toward him like smoke. Every sound, a drip, a creak, a distant thump, felt deliberate, orchestrated by something alive. He reached the door and yanked it open, stepping into the main aisle. The warehouse exhaled behind him, darkness curling like fingers along the doorway. The crawling figure appeared again at the far end, faster this time. Ali's pulse raced uncontrollably. A cold breeze brushed his face, sharp and sudden, chilling him to the bone. He gasped. The air smelled metallic, like rust and old blood. The shadows seemed to shift with the wind, crawling closer. Ali realized the warehouse was no longer just alive. It was hunting. He stumbled over a stack of crates, barely. The warehouse had grown unbearably silent. Ali's breathing echoed in the cavernous aisles, each step bouncing off the metal shelves and stacked crates. His flashlight beam quivered in his trembling hands. The night had grown darker, colder, and more alive with every passing hour. He knew that the crawling figure and the shadows were not alone. Something watched from the dark, unseen, yet unmistakable. He moved cautiously, flashlight scanning every corner. Dust floated in strange, unnatural currents, twisting and coiling in the beam. A faint whisper drifted across the aisles. "Look, see, we are here." Ali shivered. Every instinct screamed to flee, but curiosity and fear anchored him in place. Ahead, the maintenance door swayed slightly. He knew what awaited him beyond it. Each creak, each movement carried intent. The warehouse was alive, aware, and patient. Shadows stretched unnaturally along the walls, crawling like fingers over the floor, twisting in impossible angles. Then he saw them. Eyes. Dozens of tiny, faintly glowing eyes scattered across the dark aisles, reflecting the faint light of his flashlight. They blinked in unison, following his every movement. Ali froze. Heart hammering, he scanned the rows of crates and shelves. Nothing moved. But the eyes remained, watching, unblinking now, fixed on him. A faint scratching sound came from the far end of the aisle. Ali turned. A shadow moved with impossible speed, bending and twisting across the floor. The crawling figure reappeared, closer than ever. Its limbs extended in impossible ways, stretching like black smoke across the concrete floor. The glowing eyes followed it, multiplying, weaving in and out of the darkness. Ali stumbled backward, heart racing. Whispers swirled around him. "You cannot escape. See. Fear." The eyes blinked in rhythm with the whispers, creating a pulse of terror that seemed to vibrate through the very air. The warehouse was alive, and every dark corner held hidden watchers. He spun his flashlight beam across the aisles. Shadows leapt and twisted, stretching impossibly, crawling along shelves. A crate toppled violently beside him. Ali jumped back, flashlight shaking. The eyes blinked, reflecting in the metal edges, surrounding him with the sensation of being watched from all directions. A cold breeze brushed his neck. The whispers grew louder, overlapping into a chorus. Look, feel, die. Allie's pulse raced. The crawling figure advanced, bending, stretching impossibly. More eyes appeared, now on the walls, on the floor, in reflections of metal and glass. The warehouse had become a predator, and he was the prey. Allie stumbled, turning a corner. The flashlight flickered violently. For a brief second, the eyes appeared directly in front of him, dozens of glowing orbs staring into his soul. The crawling figure darted past, faster than humanly possible, leaving a trail of shadow curling along the floor. Allie gasped, backing into a shelf. The whispers seemed to seep into his mind, echoing relentlessly. He tried to rationalize. It's the building, my imagination, fatigue. But the cold, the shadows, the eyes, and the crawling figure were all real. He could feel their awareness pressing against him. Every step, every sound, every flicker of light confirmed it. Allie moved cautiously toward the central hall, eyes scanning for any safe passage. Dust swirled unnaturally, shadows twisting in impossible shapes. The eyes multiplied, now forming patterns along the walls, reflecting in the polished concrete, crawling along metal surfaces. The warehouse had become a labyrinth of watching horrors.
The warehouse had become a labyrinth of dread. Allie's flashlight quivered in his hands as he navigated the endless aisles. Shadows twisted unnaturally around him, curling like smoke. The whispers had returned, louder, closer, almost tangible. You can't escape. We are here. Allie's heart pounded. Every nerve screamed to run, yet his legs felt heavy, as if the shadows themselves were rooting him in place. The crawling figure from earlier had vanished, but he could feel its presence, stalking him, patient, deliberate. The temperature dropped sharply. His breath became visible, forming clouds in the dim light. The cold pressed against him like unseen hands. Every step echoed in the vast emptiness, amplified by the stillness, making him feel exposed, hunted. He moved cautiously past a stack of crates. Dust floated in unnatural patterns, drifting against the airflow. Then he heard it, a low, raspy whisper behind him. Closer. Feel. Fear. Allie spun, flashlight beam cutting across the aisle. Nothing. Just empty crates, but the sensation of being watched intensified. Shadows along the walls began to stretch and twist, crawling slowly toward him. Allie's pulse raced. The crawling figure appeared at the far end, bending impossibly, moving without legs. It inched closer with each second, deliberate, silent, horrifying. Allie backed away, tripping over a loose cable. The flashlight skidded across the floor, illuminating a wall for a brief moment. There, dozens of eyes glimmered in the dark, unblinking, reflecting the weak light. He staggered back, panic surging. The whispers grew louder, overlapping, forming a chorus that seemed to fill the entire warehouse. You cannot escape. We are always here. Feel the cold. Feel the fear. Allie's mind raced. Every rational explanation evaporated in the suffocating darkness. He grabbed the flashlight, sweeping it across the aisles. Shadows danced, twisting and crawling impossibly. Dust swirled like smoke, forming shapes that seemed almost human. The crawling figure moved with impossible speed, bending along the floor, stalking him silently. Allie ran toward the maintenance door. Shadows coiled around him, stretching like black fingers across the floor and walls. The cold intensified, burning through his jacket, chilling him to the bone. The whispers followed, drifting across the aisles, echoing, overlapping, invading his mind. A metallic crash echoed behind him. A crate had fallen violently. Allie spun, shining the flashlight in all directions. The crawling figure was gone, but he could feel its presence closer now, as if it had learned to move in silence. He stumbled through the aisles, shadows twisting in impossible angles. Dust floated in unnatural currents, drifting against logic. The warehouse had become a living entity, aware, patient, predatory. Every whisper, every shadow, every cold draft reinforced the truth. He was trapped. Allie reached the central hall. The maintenance door loomed ahead. He lunged toward it, flashlight beam bouncing wildly. The whispers followed him, overlapping with the rhythm of his heartbeat. "You cannot leave. You cannot hide. We see you." He swung the door open and stepped into the hall. For a fleeting moment, the warehouse appeared normal. Silent, empty aisles, stationary boxes. But Allie knew better. The shadows moved just beyond sight. The whispers lingered in the air, and the crawling figure waited, patient. Allie sank against a crate, trying to catch his breath. The whispers faded slightly, but their presence remained, pressing against his mind, unrelenting. The warehouse had claimed its territory, and he was intruding. The cold pressed against him again, sharper now, like icy fingers brushing his neck. Allie shivered violently. Every shadow, every whisper, every movement felt deliberate, testing him, toying with him. The crawling figure had taught him the rules. The warehouse was alive, and he was its prey. Allie realized with a sinking dread. The night was far from over. The whispers would not stop, the shadows would not relent, and the crawling figure, whatever it truly was, would continue its hunt. Every corner of the warehouse held watchers, every shadow concealed intent. He swallowed hard, forcing himself to stand. The whispers seemed to encircle him now, closer, louder, pressing against his mind. Dust swirled in the air, forming fleeting shapes that seemed to reach for him. The warehouse was alive, aware, and patient. Allie's flashlight beam wavered. For a brief second, he glimpsed the crawling figure inches from him, bending, twisting, impossible limbs crawling along the floor. Then it vanished, leaving only darkness and the echo of whispers. He knew the truth now. The warehouse had marked him, and the night was only beginning. The shadows would close in, the whispers would grow louder, and the cold would seep deeper. Allie's fear was no longer just an emotion, it was a weapon, feeding the warehouse, empowering the unseen watchers. He took a deep, shaky breath, bracing for the next wave of terror. The night was alive, and the whispers had only just begun.
The warehouse had become a living nightmare. Ali's heart pounded violently in his chest as he moved cautiously down the endless aisles. Shadows stretched unnaturally, twisting like smoke. Every creak, every whisper, every subtle movement told him one thing: he was not alone. The crawling figure had returned. Its long, impossible limbs moved silently along the concrete floor, bending at angles that defied reason. The shadows along the walls seemed to pulse and shift with it, creating a web of darkness that reached toward Ali like hungry fingers. He gripped his flashlight tightly, its beam trembling in his hand. Dust floated in unnatural currents, curling and coiling as if alive. The whispers were louder now, overlapping, almost chanting. "You cannot escape. We see you. We are here." Ali's heart raced. Every instinct screamed to flee, but the aisles twisted around him, unfamiliar and threatening. The warehouse itself seemed to shift, alive and aware, testing him, toying with him. Ahead, a stack of crates toppled violently, blocking his path. Ali jumped back, heart hammering. The crawling figure moved closer, bending impossibly, sliding over the floor with unnatural speed. Its presence pressed against him, cold and menacing. Ali spun, flashlight sweeping the aisles. Shadows danced along the walls, coiling and twisting, crawling toward him. The whispers grew louder, forming a chorus that seemed to vibrate through the air. "Feel, fear, die." Ali stumbled forward, trying to find an escape. Every corner seemed identical, every shadow a potential predator. The crawling figure was patient, deliberate, stalking him silently,
waiting for him to falter. A cold breeze swept through the aisle, sharper than before, cutting through his jacket and chilling him to the bone. Ali shivered violently. The warehouse exhaled around him, alive, aware, hungry. He tried to rationalize. It's the building, fatigue, imagination. But the crawling figure, the shadows, the whispers, they were undeniably real. He could feel them pressing against his mind, their awareness unrelenting. Ali ran, stumbling over cables and crates. The whispers followed, overlapping with the rhythm of his heartbeat. You cannot hide. You cannot escape. We are here. The crawling figure advanced, bending impossibly, limbs stretching across the floor faster than light. He reached the central hall. The maintenance door loomed ahead. Ali lunged toward it, flashlight bouncing wildly. Shadows twisted and coiled, curling along walls and floor, reaching for him. The whispers intensified, now deafening, invading his mind. Feel, fear, die. You belong to us. Ali yanked open the door and rushed through. The central hall appeared empty, normal, silent. But he could feel the presence, closer now, crawling in the corners, pressing against him, stalking, patient. He sank against the stack of crates, gasping. His pulse thundered in his ears. The crawling figure had not left. The shadows stretched, coiled, twisted. The whispers continued, echoing relentlessly. The warehouse had claimed its territory, and Ali was trapped inside its labyrinth of darkness. Suddenly, a faint glow appeared in the distance, the crawling figure, closer than ever. Ali's flashlight flickered violently. The figure stretched impossibly across the floor, its limbs bending in ways that defied reason. He could feel it nearly touch him, cold and real. Ali scrambled backward, flashlight beam sweeping frantically. The shadows shifted with the figure, crawling along walls, floor, ceiling. The whispers overlapped, forming a relentless, chilling rhythm. You belong to the dark. You cannot escape. We see you. He stumbled over a loose cable, falling hard. His flashlight rolled, illuminating the figure for just a second, closer, faster, impossibly bent. Then it vanished. Silence returned, but the dread remained, pressing against him, unyielding. Ali realized the horrifying truth. The crawling figure, the shadows, and the whispers, they were not just present, they were alive. They had marked him, hunted him, and would not relent until the warehouse had consumed him completely. He forced himself to his feet, heart hammering. The whispers seemed to press into his mind, closer now, louder, unavoidable. The shadows stretched, coiled, twisting, crawling closer. Ali's fear was a beacon, drawing the presence nearer, closer, faster. The cold pressed against his skin, sharper now, biting, relentless. Every instinct screamed to run, but the warehouse had closed in, trapping him in its labyrinth of darkness. The crawling figure appeared again, inches from him. Ali's pulse thundered, every nerve screamed. The night was alive, the warehouse was alive. The shadows, the whispers, the crawling figure, they were patient, unrelenting, unstoppable. Ali knew one thing for certain. The final crawl had begun, and it would not stop until it had him.
The warehouse had never felt so alive. Ali's heartbeat pounded in his chest, echoing against the metal shelves and stacked crates. Shadows twisted unnaturally around him, stretching like black smoke. Every whisper, every movement, every unseen presence told him the same thing. There was no escape. The crawling figure had returned. Its long, impossible limbs moved silently across the concrete floor, bending at unnatural angles. Shadows along the walls shifted, coiling like hungry fingers. The warehouse itself seemed to breathe, a predator aware of its prey.
Ollie gripped his flashlight, trembling, every step measured, cautious. The whispers had multiplied, a chorus of voices overlapping. "You cannot leave. You belong to us. We see you. We will have you." The air grew colder, denser, pressing against him, almost tangible. Ahead, a stack of crates toppled violently. Ollie jumped back, heart hammering. The crawling figure advanced, bending and stretching impossibly, limbs sliding over the floor with unnatural speed. Its presence was everywhere, surrounding him, pressing in. He ran blindly through the aisles, shadows twisting and coiling around him. Dust floated in strange currents, moving against logic. The whispers pressed into his mind, growing louder, almost deafening. "Feel, fear, despair. You cannot escape." Ollie stumbled over a loose cable, falling hard. His flashlight rolled across the floor, illuminating the crawling figure for a fleeting second. Closer, faster, impossibly bent. Then it vanished. Silence returned. But the sense of being watched remained, heavy and oppressive. He scrambled to his feet, flashlight trembling in his hands. The warehouse had become a living labyrinth, every corner hiding watchers, every shadow hiding intent. The whispers continued, relentless, pressing into his mind. "You belong to the dark. We see you. We claim you." Ollie tried to run, lunging toward the maintenance door. Shadows twisted around him, crawling along walls and floor, coiling like serpents. The cold pressed against him, biting, chilling him to the bone. Every instinct screamed to flee, but the warehouse had trapped him. The crawling figure appeared again, faster, closer, bending impossibly across the floor. Ollie's pulse raced uncontrollably. The shadows stretched, curling, coiling, reaching for him. The whispers overlapped, forming a terrifying rhythm. "We are here. You cannot hide. You belong to us." Ollie's mind raced. Every rational explanation evaporated in the suffocating darkness. The crawling figure, the shadows, the whispers. They were real, alive, patient, and relentless. The warehouse had marked him. There was no escape. He stumbled forward, gripping the flashlight like a lifeline. Dust swirled around him, shadows twisting in impossible ways. The whispers pressed into his mind, almost tangible, forcing him to his knees. "Feel, fear, despair, surrender." Ollie's vision blurred as the cold pressed deeper, the darkness curling tighter, the crawling figure moving impossibly close. Every shadow became a threat, every sound a warning. He realized one horrifying truth: the warehouse did not just watch, it consumed. He sank against a wall, gasping. The crawling figure loomed above him, impossibly bent, stretching limbs across the floor, shadow merging with shadow. The whispers crescendoed. "You belong to the warehouse. We see you. We have you." Ollie tried to flee, but the aisles shifted, twisting, reshaping. The warehouse had claimed him. Shadows wrapped around him, the cold seeped into his bones, the whispers echoed endlessly. The crawling figure advanced, patient, deliberate, unstoppable. He screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the warehouse. The shadows closed in, coiling, crawling, merging with the figure. The cold pressed into every nerve, every joint, every breath. Ollie was trapped, consumed by the darkness, surrounded by the watchers, enveloped by the whispers. And then silence. The warehouse exhaled. Ollie was gone. Only the shadows remained, coiling along the floor and walls, patient, waiting for the next intruder. The crawling figure slithered back into the darkness. The whispers faded, but the cold lingered. The warehouse had claimed its prey. The lights flickered once, then stabilized. The aisles were empty, quiet, but the awareness remained, alive and patient, watching, waiting. And somewhere, deep in the shadows, the whispers promised, "We are always here, always waiting." The night was over for Ollie, but the warehouse would never rest.